Good evening, everyone. It's Sharia Crime Stoppers yet again, and we're with you this evening. And Mary is with us as well. Mary will be joining us in just a moment. Tonight, we're going to be changing things a little bit. There's Mary. Good evening, Mary.
Sorry, I had to realize there was a fan noise I had to turn off. My apologies.
No problem. All right, we're here, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate your being here. We know it's a holiday. We're going to try to keep it crisp tonight. Our normal news analyst would be Christine Douglas Williams. She's unable to be with us tonight, but she is confirmed for the rest of the schedule. She'll be back on the 28th, and we will have Claire next week and Leo the week after, and then Christine on the 28th. So, again, all the way up through the election, mark your calendars, Monday night, 7 o'clock Eastern. That's what we do, and we're so grateful for the three of them. Tonight, we're going to try something a little bit different. We are going to take your questions, and we will try to provide some answers between Mary and myself. Although you give us comments, we may see some of your comments as answers as well. At the bottom of the screen, Q&A button, you type in your question. Mary and I will facilitate them at the end of the program. So what are we really going to do tonight? Well, we have a topic which we think is very relevant, and we're going to show that to you, I believe. We're not going to show that. Hang on, we're going to get out of there. And we're going to put the glasses on so we can see what we're supposed to be doing here better.
It's been a busy day.
All right, so, all right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to actually talk about recruiting children or child soldiers for the war on America. It's a striking title, I would say. To do that, we're going to show you three videos. Two short ones and a medium-sized one. We're going to talk about an article by Leo Neumann and another article by Deborah DeGroff dealing with this subject. The videos are quite compelling, and I think be worth the price of admission. The Alex Neumann video is quite comprehensive, and that will be primarily the majority of our work, but it gives you an opportunity to learn and to ask your questions, so we hope you will work with us tonight. We have a different way of looking at things tonight. So, Mary, are you all set? Mary's got the videos going. I'm going to jump into the Leo Neumann article. Mary, do you have any other introductory comment, Mary?
No, I just ask for everybody's patience tonight. We are really trying to bring you a spectacular show, and we appreciate you being here on the holidays. So go ahead, Dick. Let's kick it off with Leo's article, and then when you get ready, I'll bring up the video that's associated to it.
Okay, so we're seeing Leo's article, everybody. Correct, Mary? You got it up?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sure.
So thank you, everybody, for being with us. We're going to talk about Chaos is Coming to Mayberry, and this is kind of a striking title. This came out yesterday. We're going to walk you through the article. We certainly would recommend, to do justice to the article, which we will not, you need to go to leoheumann.com. Leo, of course, is a regular contributor with us, but he's a very, very important writer and commentator on the subject that we deal with all the time. So Mayberry, as you all know, that's where Andy Griffith and Andy and Barney live. It's a nice little community. It's certainly not New York. It's not Chicago. How could chaos possibly be coming there? Here's a picture of a Mayberry. This particular Mayberry is in Virginia. Most people think of Virginia as a conservative state. Lots of interest in Second Amendment and other things. What people don't know is there's been a fundamental transformation in Virginia, and the one that's trying to sweep across America, and that means that there are very liberal mayors and liberal city police chiefs, including in a town that Leo is positioning as Mayberry, namely Roanoke, Virginia. Here's a picture of an outside dining area. As you know, some of you this weekend decided to go outside, find a restaurant, go outside, get out of the house. Outside dining is what people do. Well, you can see in the back here that since June, there's been regular protests in Roanoke by Black Lives Matter and the Antifa, people like that, with no attention from the police chief or the city council or the mayor. So Leo is telling the story about people that are out dining in the evening, and then all of a sudden, the town turns violent. A peaceful night out turns violent. He tells the story in great detail. I would really advise you to read it. It's a personal story of a real person who went through this and experienced basically a disturbance, had to make a quick decision about protecting himself and the young woman he was with. It's very, very graphic. There's detail dialogue that you're going to want to follow. It's a story. When you read the story, you're going to realize this could have been you in the midst of a growing out of control situation that endangers your family, your children, and yourself personally. What ended up happening to this couple, the gentleman was challenged by the Black Lives Matter protesters. By the way, this is in the context of children. Some of these people look like they're 20 to 25 years old. They're behaving like children. Just a few years ago, they were our children. They were in our schools, and that's why they're part of the story. So this gentleman was challenged to lay down on the ground, put his fist in the air, and beg for forgiveness for him being a white supremacist, which is basically the punchline here. You're going to want to read it. You're not going to want to miss it. This is in a suburb. This is in an area. This is where you live and we live. And Leo's whole point of this is there's no getting away from it. This is the reality we live in. It's going to be this way through the election and likely into next year. Another example that Leo gives us, and we have a video for that, is a similar situation of people dining outside in Rochester, New York. And I think, Mary, this would be a good time for us to play that video.
Okay, let me just say that what's always amazing to me on all of these articles that we read is how many of these people, how young they are, number one, how many females are engaged in this Black Lives Matter protest, as well as the whiteness of the ones that are screaming white privilege to people that need to bow down to Black Lives Matter. I don't get it, but that's the indoctrination that we're going to be talking about tonight. We're going to take this through a couple of channels of what they're doing in terms of the indoctrination of our children. So watch this. Let me pull up the video that Leo had in his article. And hold on one second. I've got to find it.
While Mary finds it, I'll tell you this video is a couple of minutes. And then we've got we've got another one, a short one, and we've got one with Alex Neumann that develops this whole topic of how did these children become these people, these weaponized human beings attacking not just the country, but their fellow citizens. In some cases, there might be some divisions within the family, so that you have a situation just like the Civil War in the 1860s. This is where we are. This is truth. This is not sugar-coated at all. So,
all right, let me just, whoops, is that, let me, hold on one second. Let me get it to the right place. There we go. This is from Leo's article. Protests shut down the restaurants in Rochester, New York.
Nobody's hurting y'all. We're shutting the party down. Nobody's gonna touch you. We're shutting your party down. Calm down. Calm down.
Okay, so that is an example that we want to talk about. Mary, for the next video, you might want to take the volume down just a little bit, but that was chilling with whatever the volume was. And I'm sure that if you hadn't seen that, again, this is inside the Leo Holman article. This is a small part of the article, so please do go back and look at the article. Leo's point is this is everyday America. This is not just happening in San Francisco and Chicago and New York. The other observations is think about what would you do? You're sitting there. Depending on your age and your appearance, they may be more and more aggressive with you than somebody else. What would you do? Have you thought about it? Do you carry pepper spray? What would you do? Again, obviously pepper spray and other things like that, you need to be thinking it through very carefully. We understand that. But anyway, we wanted you to see that.
It's so incredible to think that these people just went out for a night for dinner and did not prepare for any kind of attack like that, any kind of association to Black Lives Matter, just went out for a nice evening. I think I probably could show you a town called Mayberry, excuse me, that was someplace that some friends lived, and it was very Mayberry-like, and all I can think of is, yeah, I mean, you don't know where it's going to happen, you don't know when it's going to happen, but every village, every town, every city is a target.
The other thing to think about is Mayberry had Andy. Sheriff Andy, knowing what's going on, would have probably prepared. Sheriff Andy would have deputized a lot more people than Barney. He would have gotten the armed citizens in the town together. He would have prepared. He might have met the protests outside of the town so they don't come in and destroy the town, etc. So we don't have a lot of Andys. We have a lot of Keith Ellisons and people that think that this is justified. Unfortunately, you will notice who did not speak out about the violence, and I'm not talking about Joe Biden. The U.S. Catholic bishops generally are in support of Black Lives Matter. That is Black Lives Matter. What you just saw is Black Lives Matter and related groups. These are people who would hurt you and your children, and yet an awful lot of pastors are just basically taking a knee. We also could talk for a moment about the sports people that are coming back on the networks now talking about taking a knee. This is what we're talking about, people. This is civil war. And the question really in your mind should be, oh my God, what would I do? How am I prepared? How can I prepare? You will watch this intensify over the next several months. It will go into next year, most likely, even if the president next year happens to be Donald Trump. These people are, I think the right word might be hell-bent on the power, on their agenda. We're going to segue to another topic.
1 minute, wait a minute, let me just comment real quick on that, because look at and the biggest hurdle we've got is all these major corporations that are donating to Black Lives Matter, and so that they are able to do what they're doing and paying these people to do this. One of the things that just fried me Sunday, I was out walking and I had my my smartphone on and I was listening to Pandora, and it was Sunday, and I thought, well, I'll listen to some Christian music as I walk in this nice little scenic area. And what came on but a Black Lives Matter on Pandora advertisement, Black Lives Matter and please donate. I just wanted to throw my phone. It just was so incredulous that they would interrupt my songs for me to hear Black Lives Matter, but that's what's happening is all the corporations have now decided that Black Lives Matter is a good corporation to donate to. And now you got to bet that anybody who works in those corporations is also getting indoctrinated to support Black Lives Matter.
And I think, again, this is a time when sports teams are coming on air, et cetera, et cetera. It's really important to think this one through. Anyway, so this is the background. We're gonna take a related topic. This is about children being weaponized. We obviously have another agenda that is equally dangerous. And I think, Mary, why don't you just show this video? We'll talk about it. The whole notion of this is kids chasing paradise, I believe.
Kids Chasing Paradise, and it's basically, we know, and we've talked about this numerous times, is that the Islamic Sharia has been weaponizing children for a very long time. Look what ISIS did. Look at what the Palestinians do. And so their children with oh my gosh, being taught to be martyrs. So let's segue into that. So it's really, the children are being indoctrinated from the schools all the way down to, and we're going to show you where they're indoctrinated all the way down to even being babies. So let's go to this one now. Hold on 1 minute. Let me see if I can grab this.
Keep in mind, we have 3,400 mosques where the fundamental points that are in this video are discussed and preached.
This is a documentary that I realize some folks are not real happy with Clarion, and you know, we sit on the fence a little bit with Clarion and what they're doing, but this one just caught my attention when we started talking about what the indoctrination is all about. This is a documentary that they put together, Kids Chasing Paradise. Powerful new documentary film. I think it came out the end of last year. That talks about the stories of activists working to save children from it. Now they're calling, of course, Islam extremism, but there's nothing extreme about it. Islam is just Islam. So let's watch this. This is just a trailer.
A lot of people looked at my son as a terrorist, and that's not who he was.
Yes, that's Damien. Long lost Damien.
Damien Claremont was a recent convert to Islam who somehow became radicalized.
He was killed in Syria, fighting alongside who we now know as ISIS. There were so many questions. The violence, why would he leave?
Anybody, absolutely anybody, can become radicalized.
Your son died fighting for ISIS.
One day he was there, one day he was gone.
And I found out it was a phenomenon that was happening all over.
It's hard to believe that I was ever a jihadist, and I was raising children to be assassins and killers and weapons of war.
You have to look at a bigger picture. All over the world, extremist groups are recruiting our sons and our daughters to fight their fight. From an early age, they're trained to be warriors, to be fighters, to be killers.
Children, they're vulnerable. They do as their elders tell them to do.
طبعا استخدام طفلة صغيرة هذه المرة تسأل العميد ولكن
It absolutely is child abuse.
We have a moral responsibility to all of those children, and it's our job to protect them and step in.
You think about the children that ISIS trained. Where are those children today? Where do you think they are? Could they possibly be over here and part of the Black Lives Matter? We know that the Red-Green Alliance works very well together. Who knows? That's exactly where they could be in terms of, what is going on in American cities right now.
Well, there could be a subset of them that are actually out in the street in Rochester and Roanoke. Mm-hmm. But there's also a group that doesn't need to be out in the street because they can sit back in the mosque, because right now the Marxists, primarily Black Lives Matter and Antifa, are doing the job for them. However, they are available when the level of violence is required to be ratcheted up. So I think you might want to ask yourself, what kind of people put these ideas into a child's head? Who would ever talk to a 3-year-old about that? Well, that's the rest of this evening. We're going to show you in an American setting, who are the people that are putting these ideas into a 3-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 15-year-old, and produce the 22-year-olds you just saw. Mary pointed it out. Many, many women are doing this. Many, many people who are not people of color are actively doing these things. There's a hatred about what they're doing. They hate America. I guess I'd have to say they hate some of their parents. On the other hand, it may have been that either through negligence or active promotion, some of their parents are also part of the indoctrination. It's certainly something to look at. And I think we're at this point, we're going to show you another video that really goes into this deeply. It is focused on school children, younger people that would be, that would grow up to be the people that you just saw in the earlier videos. Mary, why don't we take a look at that one?
We're going to do that one now. Okay, 1 minute. Let me find it first.
This is Alex Neumann. His program is typically entitled Deep State. In this particular one, he's looking at deep state, people that are recruiting children as warriors against America. The goal is to take down America and to do it through our children and our grandchildren. So,
yeah, let me just read you a little bit that is with the video. It's Behind the Deep State. Alex Neumann talks about the deep state's recruitment and weaponization of American children through the Rockefeller-funded Sunrise Movement. And he's going to talk to you about that. Using the children, and it's funded. It's also funded by racist and globalist billionaires with a B. And the front group is seeking to use concerns about the environment to undermine American freedom and free markets using the Green New Deal. So let me grab that now.
you see how easily they move from climate to white supremacy.
All right, let me see.
The deep state is now recruiting your children as young as middle school, to serve as child soldiers in what this little front group they've created calls its army. Okay, on their website, they say they're creating an army of young people, and they're not kidding. They are grooming these children, teaching them criminal tactics. They're teaching them to get arrested. They're teaching them to burn down buildings, basically to achieve political goals, subversive political goals, the overthrow of the United States and our liberties in our constitutional republic. The use of violence and this sort of tactics to achieve political goals is the textbook definition of terrorism. And again, they're using your children. Okay, the Rockefellers, George Soros, the Club of Rome, all of them are involved. And hopefully the use of child soldiers in the war on America will be the final straw. You won't want to miss this. But long before George Floyd died in Minneapolis under the influence of multiple illicit substances, a shadowy organization was exploiting children, your children potentially, to use as cannon fodder and human shields. They were plotting violent unrest as part of a campaign, they said, to defund the police. The organization is called the Sunrise Movement. It has the backing of very powerful billionaires, and again, it's openly bragging that they are, quote, building an army of young people. Their objectives include eliminating our police departments and even the free market system. Mayhem is a welcome tool in their arsenal, and the worst is yet to come. They're actually bragging on their website that they are planning mass non-cooperation to interrupt business as usual next year. They are even on video using blackmail against the Joe Biden campaign. This is going to blow your mind. So these movements' powerful backers, which ironically I mentioned include the Rockefeller oil dynasty, we'll come back to them later because they're crucial to this. They know that their efforts aren't actually going to eliminate the police, right? I mean, the point is not necessarily to eliminate the police. It is to advance this much broader campaign that would involve undermining our free system of government, our free political institutions. Now, originally it was based on global warming fears, right? They wanted to hype up the global warming hysteria to try to use that as a weapon to advance their causes. They actually say on their website that fight against climate change exists alongside the fight against white supremacy and colonialism. And to fix it, we need a Green New Deal for visionary change. The website also calls for stopping climate change by, and I quote, transforming our whole economy. Now, the reason they are able to recruit so many young children, and again, they're going down to middle school, they're getting 12, 13, 14-year-old kids involved in this, is because the public school system is dumbing them down and brainwashing them. As our president said, I want to show you a quick clip from our president because he hit the nail on the head in his Independence Day speech at Mount Rushmore. But listen to this real quick.
The violent mayhem we have seen in the streets and cities that are run by liberal Democrats in every case is the predictable result of years of extreme indoctrination and bias in education, journalism, and other cultural institutions. against every law of society and nature. Our children are taught in school to hate their own country and to believe that the men and women who built it were not heroes, but that were villains.
So the schools are dumbing down and indoctrinating the children to hate their own country. And then in comes the Sunrise Movement to weaponize them and dupe them into becoming child soldiers in the war against their own families, their own freedoms, their own country. I'm going to show you just some clips from here of what they're doing. I mean, they are being brainwashed almost in a cult-like fashion, and they're being taught to hate their country, our civilization, private property, their families, and much more. And the extremism is going to get worse. Now, we have a lot of insight into this group because of an incredible journalist who I know, by the way. Her name is Millie Weaver. She calls herself Millennial Millie, and she had a source that infiltrated this Sunrise Movement for 2 years. So a lot of the clips that I'm going to show you during this episode of Behind the Deep State are going to come from Millie Weaver's video. I encourage you to go watch the whole thing because the level of criminality that she is exposing, in their own words, is just off the charts. The fact that the ringleaders of this circus have not been indicted yet speaks volumes about the state of our law enforcement, of the state of our prosecutorial and justice system right now. But I want to show you just some clips like this. Listen to this clip here of Sunrise organizer Abby Leedy in a Zoom call brainwashing little children on how they should dismantle patriarchy, transphobia, capitalism, and all the rest of it, talking about escalations. Check this out.
Instead of studying in a classroom, we're building an army of young people across the country starting right now. So we'll be thousands strong by the time the election arrives.
They are calling on children to help escalate the mayhem.
These escalations, these actions can be really, really dangerous for a lot of folks. There's a lot of, especially I think with escalated actions, often police are involved, or there's there could be nasty onlookers, or you're doing an action in DC and there's a bunch of really evil, MAGA teens over in the corner.
Another one of the adult organizers of this army of children is Sarah Abbott. And she's got the shaved head, this half-shaved head, talking about the military-style tactics that they are using in the war on our society. Watch this video.
What we are seeing is not just chaos. We're actually seeing resistance and organizing. And what we know is that uprisings, including actions like burning buildings, are legitimate and powerful forms of resistance, and are resisting brutal and violent and dehumanizing systems like white supremacy. And that property is something that can be recovered.
Did you catch that? Burning buildings is a legitimate and powerful form of resistance. People die when buildings are burned. People's life savings go up in flames. This is terrorism, okay? Somebody actually died during the looting and the violence when they burned down one of these buildings. This is potentially murder that they are training these children to do. And yet they're being told that it's a legitimate and powerful form of resistance, okay? These adults are training these children. They're weaponizing them to unleash violence, chaos, property damage, and other criminal activity. This is literally the textbook definition of terrorism. They're turning your children into little terrorists. Now let's go on here. In that same video, Abbott, who incidentally is a proud proponent of racial segregation, true story, she explained that there was a lot of organizing that went into what we saw in Minneapolis. You know, we all thought, oh, it's just spontaneous. People are just mad about police brutality. Nothing could be further from the truth. Listen to this clip of Abbott talking about what went into making this happen.
So Black organizers and multiracial groups of organizers in Minneapolis have been building power in the city for years now. And part of what they've been able to do with that power is to bring a lot of the city on their side.
So the goal of all this, Abbott said, before dismissing the children off into their racially segregated breakout groups, right? She said white children will go to one group and black children will go to another group. I mean, unbelievable, is to abolish the police.
These are organizations that have built strength and power over the past 6 years of the Black Lives Matter movement in Minneapolis, running strategic campaigns to defund the Minneapolis Police Department, oriented around a vision of the abolition of police. So the idea that we're actually fighting for a world without police. And these campaigns that folks are running are strategic and they're winnable. And we can make huge gains toward it in moments of uprisings like these.
Okay, another Sunrise leader, her name is Ashley Green. She's a lesbian activist, and she actually celebrates the burning of taxpayer property and the violent attacks on our law enforcement. Check out this clip.
Last night, when that police station went up in flames, me and my girlfriend, we poured shots. We were happy. It was a celebration in this house.
Multiple police stations in Democrat-ran areas were set on fire and destroyed.
So obviously, the burning of the 3rd Precinct police station in Minneapolis was orchestrated. These Sunrise people were very, very pleased. And of course, it was only made possible thanks to the fringe left-wing mayor and the fringe left-wing governor who ordered police to stand down while their police station was being attacked and burned. So this is being orchestrated, guys, from the highest levels. Right? You have the child of the governor of Minnesota tweeting out information on where the police and where the National Guard were going to be to Antifa and to the terrorists running around on the streets. This is orchestrated, guys, from the highest levels. Then you have the public officials allowing it all to happen, handcuffing our police, demonizing our police as if they were the bad guys as their police station is getting burned down, as minority business owners are having their life savings, their entire life burnt up in flames. I mean, this is unbelievable, guys. Now, I want to get a little bit into the background of this group because it wasn't always obsessed with the police. Before the police hysteria, it was actually primarily focused on environmental stuff, and it largely still is. They kind of just glommed onto this police issue. But some of the background: this group was founded in 2013 by a far left-wing environmental activist called Michael Dorsey. Now, he's served in some relatively minor positions in the Obama administration and in the Clinton administration, promoting this environmental hysteria. But more importantly, he's a member of the very, very powerful Club of Rome. Now, if you haven't heard of the Club of Rome, that's because you've been watching too much fake media and you haven't been reading the New American enough. But the Club of Rome is an incredibly powerful organization. People involved include high-ranking members of the Communist Chinese Party, the former dictator of the Soviet Union, Mikhail Gorbachev, a bunch of Western globalist elites like Al Gore. These are the people who are involved in the Club of Rome. It's a very elite organization dedicated to promoting this environmental extremism as a means to an end, which of course is breaking down individual liberty, breaking down the economy and the free market, and moving us toward a centrally planned system, which of course Mikhail Gorbachev has always been very proud of. Now, in 1991, they really let the cat out of the bag. They came out with this report called The First Global Revolution. And yes, that's their term, not mine, revolution. And in this report, they decided that the real enemy of the planet is, and I quote, humanity itself. Okay? The real enemy is humanity. So you are the enemy. You got that? So with that background in mind, it really should not be surprising that one of Sunrise's top objectives is the passage of the Green New Deal. Now, this ridiculous thing was actually introduced in Congress, unveiled by Alexandra, they call her Occasional Cortex. I think her real name is Ocasio-Cortez, far-left communist Democrat from New York. And it's really interesting. I want to show you a clip from the co-founder of Greenpeace, Dr. Patrick Moore. I was up in Canada when all this craziness was happening. And so I asked Dr. Moore, wonderful man. He's hardcore environmentalist, just loves tree hugger to the max. But I asked him about this Green New Deal. Listen to what he told me.
Well, it's a recipe for mass suicide. It's just quite amazing that someone that is in government, actually elected to the government of the United States of America, would propose that we eliminate all fossil fuels in 12 years. This would basically result, if we did it on a global level, it would result in the decimation of the human population from 7-odd billion down to who knows how few people. I mean, it would basically begin a process of cannibalization amongst the human species because the food could not be delivered to the stores in the middle of the cities anymore. How would this, even just that one point, the point that bothers me the most is if you eliminated fossil fuels, every tree in the world would be cut for fuel. There's no other source of heating and cooking once you eliminate fossil fuels. You can use animal dung if there were any animals left.
So under this Green New Deal, they said we got to eliminate fossil fuels within 12 years. We've got to ban air travel. We've got to ban cows. We've got to pay money, a salary to people who don't want to work. And so Dr. Moore said this is completely preposterous, would lead to the decimation of the human population, total deforestation of the planet as everybody scrambled to chop down trees so they'd have energy to cook their food and heat their homes. Obviously, this kind of idiotic plan to suicide the entire population of the planet and chop down every tree and kill every animal on Earth was not very popular even among far-left Democrats. And so, and they'd been beating this dead horse of global warming now, and the American people just don't care for, decades, and people just are not interested, right? Okay, global warming, we're done. We don't believe you. And even if we do believe you, we don't care. We have other things to worry about. They've been wrong on their environmental prophecies of doom for so long that these Sunrise people needed another pet issue to drive their agenda forward. And so they tried to link all this environmentalism to other issues that people maybe cared a little bit more about, or at least that the media was more interested in. And so they say very interesting things. Like one of the co-founders of the Sunrise movement, one of the leaders, is a girl from whose parents, I guess, come from India. And she actually says that America's police force serves to protect a system that is fundamentally racist, okay? And she didn't actually say what part of America's system is fundamentally racist. That maybe it was that whole idea from the Bible that all men are created equal and they're all endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights. Oh, wait, no, that's not racist. So I don't know what exactly she was talking about, but this girl Varshini Prakash, whose parents fled from, or whose ancestors fled from India to come to America because America is so awesome. Incidentally, India is extremely a caste-based system, right? If you're born as an untouchable, you will die as an untouchable. But she says we won't have a Green New Deal that works for everyone unless we concurrently address the sickness that lies in the soul of America. She didn't exactly define that sickness, but basically in the view of the Sunrise people, that sickness is free markets, individual liberty, constitutional government, rule of law, and all the rest of those wonderful things. Now, she actually recently got selected to serve on the Joe Biden-Bernie Sanders Climate Change Task Force with Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez and other socialist and anti-American extremists. She said in a statement that she was honored to stand alongside Bernie Sanders, who, by the way, is an open socialist. And she's humbled that Bernie endorsed her to carry on the fight for this agenda. I call Bernie Sanders the Bolshevik Bernie because, of course, he went to go celebrate his honeymoon in the Soviet Union. Who does that, right? Big fan of the mass murdering communist Sandinistas in Nicaragua. And anyways, it was all about the Green New Deal. Now, there's another really interesting twist to this, guys, because how does this fringe left-wing radical end up on the Joe Biden Climate Committee? Well, there's some interesting backstory there that Millie Weaver also discovered. Turns out one of the communications people for Sunrise Movement was faced sexual improprieties, shall we say, from Joe Biden during an event that happened some years ago. He kind of like stuck his face right in front of hers, and she thought he was going to like kiss her or something, and she was really uncomfortable and viewed this as kind of sexual harassment. And so they had a meeting, these Sunrise people, and they said, how do we leverage this dirt on Joe Biden to get into some prominent positions on the campaign? Now, in legal speak, this is called blackmail, and it's a crime. Whether that is how Varshini Prakash got on Biden's climate task force, I guess we'll never know for sure unless some prosecutor looks into this. But very, very interesting. Now, what does the training look like for these child soldiers? Well, they have been teaching them to, quote, exploit trigger events that they can use to advance their movement. And they have all kinds of documents about this, these trigger events. And Floyd's death at the hands of a police officer in Minneapolis was just such a trigger event. And so in cooperation with Black Lives Matter and Antifa, swung into action. They've got hundreds of these Sunrise Movement chapters all across America. Minneapolis is one of their big hubs, and they swung into action after this death because it was a perfect trigger event. They had been very well trained by a place called the Momentum Institute. Now, if you're not familiar with the Momentum Institute, they claim they incubate these radical left-wing movements. It's based on the philosophy of a very, very bizarre man named Saul Alinsky. Now, if you don't know Saul Alinsky, he wrote Rules for Radicals. It was basically a how-to manual. How do you stir up grievances? How do you build movements so that you go out and accomplish your political goals? Little fun fact, maybe a little bit of an aside, he dedicated his book, Rules for Radicals, to Lucifer, aka Satan. And I mean, hey, if you don't like Satan, you know, maybe you don't belong at the Momentum Institute. Anyways, more Marxism, right? So this institute, this Momentum Institute, is funded by billionaires, and they are training these left-wing children and activists to become community organizers like Saul Alinsky, like Barack Obama, and others. Black Lives Matter is also trained by the Momentum Institute. So are activists from a wide range of these other organizations. And what they do is they basically teach the kids, first of all, how to create rent-a-mobs, right? How do you get a big group of people to come out and hold signs and shout and scream? And then how do you go in and use that and leverage that to accomplish the change that you want? How do you get politicians on board? And so how do you lobby to get your agenda implemented? This is what the Momentum Institute does. And interestingly, this Sunrise movement, they're very much like a cult, right? So they recruit these children, they go into schools, they get these middle school and high school kids, and then what's really interesting, we found out from an article in in the New Republic, basically a communist propaganda organ, it was a puff piece. You know, they love these young children being brainwashed to do this stuff, and what they do, according to the New Republic, is they send them to movement houses where they live and eat and breathe this stuff. Lots of ideological indoctrination. They have intense trainings at these movement houses, just exactly like a cult would do, right? You take these kids, you separate them from their families, you break down their identities, you teach them Marxist propaganda, you train them, and then you sick them on their society and on their families. So they teach them how to target non-compliant politicians, they teach them how to elect radical Democrats, they teach them, and I quote, civil disobedience tactics, according to the New Republic. And they unleash them on the streets to go terrorize the population. These recruits are also given all kinds of manuals and training sessions and training documents to quite literally prepare them for war against their own society. And I mean, these are military-style tactics, right? They teach them how to not use unencrypted communication so that law enforcement can't intercept it. So they teach them to use Signal, right, which is an encrypted app so that they can communicate with each other without the police figuring out what they're up to. Again, endless ideological training. They're radicalizing these poor little children into brainwashed zombies, child soldiers, that will go out and get themselves arrested. And so that's a big part of it, actually. They find out which kids are willing to be arrested and which ones can't for whatever reason. They divide them up into teams, and so they have a red team and a green team, and this all came out in Millie Weaver's documentaries. And so one of the teams is the team that's supposed to get arrested. The other team doesn't. So all the kids go together. They protest. They march. You know, they complain. They try to get. They send out press releases so the media comes. Oh, look at these cute little children, so concerned about their future. And then the teams separate. And the team that is set to get arrested, they deliberately defy the cops, and they deliberately try to get themselves arrested by perpetrating criminal acts.
Everybody get arrested.
And the reason they do this, they're trained, is because this makes for good television. This makes for good public relations, right? They try to get this on camera so that it makes the police look like the bad guys and these heroic young children. I mean, this is exactly the same stuff communists have been using in our country for generations. They try to make the police, the man, look like the bad guy, while these poor heroic young kids are just fighting for green policies and whatever nonsense. So the media comes in, they make this big spectacle, and hey, then gullible people who watch the fake news, they see that it's highly orchestrated. Oh, look, the police are oppressing those poor children who just want to save us from global warming. Now, one of the really interesting things that came out in Millie's documentary is that some of the leaders of this operation recognized how illegal this was. Somebody who goes by the name of Rose is quoted in these documents saying, this might be child endangerment. We should probably get some legal advice before continuing with this. By the way, child endangerment is a serious crime, and so they thought they ought to consult with lawyers before continuing to use children as human shields and as terrorists in this war on America. Now, the training is bad enough. Now, I want to look at the funding and what's going on behind the scenes here. So we talked about the Club of Rome, absolutely instrumental in creating this operation, but it takes a lot of money to do this, right? It actually takes millions and millions of dollars. Millions of dollars have gone through this Sunrise movement to accomplish these things. So it actually started with help from the Sierra Club. incredibly powerful pseudo-environmentalist group. The U.S. Senate, some years ago, actually released an incredibly interesting report about the green movement, and they showed that this was really a front for a bunch of billionaires who were hoping to increase their profits, shut down their competition, and so they were funding all these AstroTurf environmental groups that would weaponize the federal bureaucracy, take over the EPA, and basically saddle their small competitors with never-ending regulations and increase their profits. Obviously, the Rockefellers are huge in this. So the Sierra Club is part of this network, and obviously it's funded by billionaires like George Soros. And I mean, if you don't believe that George Soros cares about the environment and black people, what's wrong with you, right? The same guy who said he felt no guilt, incidentally, about helping the Nazis steal property from Jews during World War II. True story, by the way. We showed you the clip last week. Now, George Soros funds these different shadowy groups like the Democracy PAC and the Democracy Alliance. And so this money then gets pumped into these fake environmental groups that try to undermine free markets, undermine private property, and so on. Another one of the big financiers of all this is Tom Steyer, this pseudo-environmentalist billionaire out of California who hates American coal. True story. While he's pushing for subsidies for his green energy investments in America. Meanwhile, the dude is all invested in coal in China. So apparently Chinese coal is okay. That's not bad for the environment. But American coal that supports American jobs and the American power grid, that's evil. But Chinese coal, that's all good. No worries, right? This is how hypocritical these people are. And this is how you know they're lying. They're exploiting these poor, naive children who wouldn't know what's going on if it bit them in the face. Now, another interesting fun fact is that Sunrise headquarters, according to its tax forms, are at the Washington, D.C. office of the Climate Action Network on F Street in Washington, D.C. Now, we reported from Madrid last year during the UN COP25 that the Climate Action Network is actually their primary funder is the Sea Change Foundation. Now, a very interesting congressional investigation found out that the Sea Change Foundation is funded in part by a shadowy shell corporation based in Bermuda. And it turns out that shell corporation, it's called Klein Limited, is being funded by the Kremlin and the state-owned Russian energy interests. So you want real Russia collusion? Here it is, folks. But of course, the fake media is not interested at all. We actually asked the Russians about this and we asked the Climate Action Network about this while we were in Madrid.
But you don't think it's true that the Kremlin was sending money to environmental groups in America? Well, very good. Well, that's what Congress said in the report, so that's why I asked. Congress probably thinks that's funny too. I'm curious, does anybody have a comment? Is Russian energy funding this whole demonstration? No comment? Any comment?
Hey, we're about to take a photo.
Is Russian energy funding this action?
Nobody wanted to talk about it. Surprise, surprise, right? Now, according to an investigation by Insider Philanthropy, the largest financial backer of the Sunrise Movement is actually the Rockefeller Family Foundation. They fund all kinds of other far-left organizations as well. Just to give you some insight into this family, right? Obviously, they're the oil dynasty, and they're still heavily invested in oil. But the longtime family patriarch of this dynasty, David Rockefeller, who just went to go meet his maker very recently, he wrote in the New York Times in 1973 that, and I quote, "The social experiment under Chairman Mao's leadership is one of the most important and successful in human history." Okay. Yeah, they massacred 50 to 80 million people, but yeah, I mean, that was so successful. That was just awesome. In fact, George Soros says they have a better functioning government than the United States, and they should own the New World Order, right? David Rockefeller also boasted in his memoirs, true story, it's on page 405, it's called Memoirs. He boasted about conspiring, is his word, with a secret cabal, again, his words, against the best interest of the United States, again, his words, to build a one world political and economic order. Again, these are all his words. These people are bragging in your face about what they're doing. So why are the Rockefellers funding the Sunrise Movement? Is it because they care about global warming? Is it because they care about racism? Oh, give me a break. Now, let's just touch on the racism thing real quick. And we've talked about this before, these racist billionaires funding the anti-racist movement. The Rockefeller dynasty was probably one of the largest financiers of racism in all of human history. Okay, they made their fortune in oil, and then they put that fortune in all these tax-exempt foundations. where they could use them to make more fortune and brainwash our children. And one of the other things that they were really heavy into financing was racism and pseudoscientific research, claiming that racism was scientific and good. In fact, the Rockefeller Foundation helped fund the National Socialist, aka the Nazi eugenics program in Germany. They also, fun fact, bankrolled Nazi Auschwitz Dr. Joseph Mengele and some of his disgusting experiments. That's according to historian Edwin Black. Okay, do you think these people really care about Black lives? Do you think these people really care about the environment or global warming? Don't be a fool, folks. Don't be a fool. Why would these oil-rich foundations that made their money in the capitalist system, who have a long history of supporting racism, support the Sunrise Movement and other Marxist groups? Well, we know the answer, right? Go watch our episode that we did on Deep State Insider Spills the Beans, okay? Georgetown University historian Carol Quigley, Bill Clinton's mentor, talks about it all in his book, Tragedy and Hope, that you see right behind me. He said in his book in 1966, there does exist and has existed for a generation an international Anglophile network which operates to some extent in the way the radical right believes the communists act. In fact, this network, which we may identify as the Round Table of Groups, has no aversion to cooperating with the communists or any other groups, and frequently does so. Okay? Frequently does so. So the deep state, identified by this book, Tragedy and Hope, frequently cooperates with the communists. In fact, we know from another book right behind me that we've talked about many times on this show, Wall Street and the Bolshevik Revolution, that the deep state even financed the enslavement of Russia, the Bolshevik anti-Russian revolution. Okay, their goal, according to Tragedy and Hope, and by the way, this Georgetown professor agreed with their goals, was to create, and he said he did, a global feudalistic control system, a one-world political and economic order where these people, the deep state, would be running it, and we would all be the serfs. Okay, the same tactics that they funded in Russia, it's the same tactics we're seeing here, except now they are recruiting your children to wage war on you and your society. Now, America is obviously a much stronger and much more resilient society than early 1900s Russia, right? So it takes a lot more to bring down our country. And we don't have a czar, you know, who's kind of unpopular. So it's much more difficult to have a communist revolution in America, where people are as prosperous as any people have ever been in human history, where we've got freedom, where we've got, you know, family. Why would people want to revolt here? So it takes a lot more effort to do what they did in Russia here in America, but they are trying their darndest. And the people who are being harmed the most are the same people they claim to want to help, right? Did you see all those riots that these Sunrise people were involved in? Did you see how many minority-owned businesses they burned to the ground? Did you see how many people have died as a result of this? Did you see the black police officers who've been killed? You've seen these goofy white kids with the purple hair shrieking at black police officers that they're racist. I mean, you can't even make this stuff up. It's absolutely insane, and yet it is happening in our cities as a result of these deep state billionaires and their front groups like the Sunrise Movement and their cohorts in government like Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison, Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot. So these criminals know they have nothing to fear, right? The law's not going to come after them. Hey, they're friends with the guys who run the legal system. Give me a break. That's not going to happen, right? So I'll say it again. Hopefully, recruiting child soldiers for this war on America will be the last straw, folks. We can't let these people keep doing this. I'm Alex Neumann. This is Behind the Deep State. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Get this out there, folks. Get this out there. This information is crucial. Go watch Millie Weaver's documentaries, Part 1 and Part 2, Undercover Investigation into the Sunrise Movement. Thanks again, and God bless you all.
There are so many things I want to say about this video that what I don't understand, Dick, I will say this 1,400 times. How is it that these people that are designing this system, that are getting these children indoctrinated, that are running these Marxist organizations, how is it they don't think they're going to be touched by the project, the plan, the implementation of what they're trying to do? How is it that they think they're going to be above being impacted by all that they are trying to do? The Green New Deal, what did he say? If we eliminate fossil fuels, it will be, every tree will be burned. Every tree will be used. So how is it they don't think anything else beyond this much of their program?
Well, I think you're talking about a whole bunch of Barack Obama's. These are narcissists. These are ego-filled people. They don't believe in God. They believe they are kind of sort of God. And I think that's basically where they come from. I think you're looking at people that are really, really quite mentally, they're not there. I'm not making excuses for them. These are evil people. I think the word, this is evil. If you're going to take children and sacrifice them, whether that's an 8-year-old Iranian or a Sunni Muslim boy who's got weapons strapped to his body, or an 8-year-old that's being trained to become a 22-year-old that's going to burn down things and think they're doing a good thing. This child abuse, we've talked about it before, but this is, I think, the message. And by the way, this again is Alex Neumann challenging internet speed. I don't know if people could keep up with him, but he's laid it all out there, folks. This could be, is this the last straw? Do people care that our children are being sacrificed to move the ball into the world of the New World Order? That's what really the point of that whole video was.
Well, the other thing I was thinking about too is how is it that Sunrise, I tried to equate it to ISIS. What the ISIS did with the children, Alex Neumann literally said, they are creating terrorists. Mm-hmm. Well, that's what ISIS did with children. Can we go back and think of the brown shirts? Those were children as well. Mm-hmm. So what we've got is organizations through time that are constantly going after the children first.
Well, and I think you also have to talk about what the children did not have in their psyche to protect them from this. They were not, as Filippini would have said, God bless them, they were not immersed, when he talks about the sponge, they were not immersed in the Constitution.
Yes.
What happened to the pastors who were talking to them about, maybe, I mean, there's certainly plenty of pastors that are talking about the evils of America, the injustice, and obviously we've got pastors embracing Black Lives Matter. We've got parents, we've got teachers. By the way, I think, Mary, you could maybe mention another resource people can look at on their own time. Glenn Beck did a video recently, Mary, on talking about what in God's name are teachers doing every day in the classroom to bring these children into a war footing related to rebelling against their own country and rebelling against their own families. So.
Let me say a little bit about that. Glenn Beck, about a week and a half ago, one of his Wednesday specials was about Black Lives Matter. Their program, their platform has been integrated into the public school systems, indoctrinating children. And he literally had Betsy DeVos on, Secretary of Education. What blew my mind on that discussion that he had with her was so incredible that he basically walked through the entire program of how it's laid out within the public schools, how the teachers are being told they have to teach it no matter what, and how some of the teachers are literally taking it to an online session. And the one thing I've been told by some teachers I was talking to recently is that being an online program, and maybe it was you, Dick, I don't remember who it was that told me, being an online program, it is now a recorded event so that they have proof that it got taught. They don't have any leeway to get away from, trying to walk away from some of the indoctrination that's being given. But what ended up with Betsy DeVos, he said to Betsy, well, what can parents do? And Betsy DeVos didn't have anything to say about what her, as the Secretary of Education, could do to solve the problem, to investigate it, to seek it out and get rid of it, to do anything for it. She washed her hands of all of it and said, it's up to the parents to go to the school boards, it's up to the parents to go to the city councils. Excuse me, but that's a little broader in her arena, that she could have done something to take it to even to President Trump to say, look, we're going to get this out of the school system.
Right, and just a footnote.
She didn't do anything.
A footnote on that. Think of all the things that have to be done and what power a secretary at any agency has in terms of funding and grants. One positive note, Mary, and you always kind of help me become positive. The President of the United States is saying that they will no longer fund federal employee training in critical race theory.
Yes,
think about this. This means that hundreds of thousands of federal employees sit through, up to this point, that now the President is stopping it, up to this point over years. You sit in a room, you're a federal employee, you are trained in critical race theory, which is really Black Lives Matter. It's all the things about, so federal employees have been being trained on white supremacy. I know that because I sat in a meeting with a trained U.S. attorney for the Southeast District of Michigan. He specifically spoke about white supremacy being the #1 problem in the state of Michigan. And at the time, the people he was speaking to were part of the Muslim Brotherhood. I know because I was there. So the federal government has been immersed in this. And I think maybe at the time we have Mary, we've got some questions. Maybe we can go one more step back and look at a lower level of indoctrination that's actually affecting even younger children.
I do want to show real quick the sunrise, and then I'll let you pull up the other one, Dick, that we want to go into before we get into the questions.
Okay.
But this is the Sunrise Movement, and this is their website that Alex talked about. Well, this is their pop-up, Pledge to Vote and Mobilize. But look at the children that they've got that they're indoctrinating. Those aren't children that can vote. Those aren't, but are they going to be out there in the disruption side of this? This is what is so incredible. These are 12, 13, maybe 16-year-olds. They can't vote, but yet this is what they're doing. Do you see what they're doing for the election cycle? Pledge to vote and mobilize. So it's getting bad, and it's not going to get much better. I'll let you go ahead into the next avenue that we've got, Dick.
Okay, that will be a challenge for me. I think I can do it. Let's see here.
Okay.
All right, we're going to, that is the wrong one.
You want the What's Inside Children's Books?
Yeah, I've got to find the right overlay here. I think we're here. Yes, we are. All right. So I want to point this out, ladies and gentlemen. This is a book. I have a copy. The book is called What's Inside, between the covers, What's Inside Children's Books. It's written by Deborah DeGroff, DeGroff. And this is a fantastic website of real brilliant work. Again, it's what'sinsidechildrensbooks.com. And here's an article connected to what we've just learned, social justice warriors. Deborah goes through this whole process, except she's now speaking about babies, 3-year-olds.
Take it down and show that picture of that woke baby. Oh my gosh, when I read that.
Right. You're right. So this is a conversation where these books, by the way, are in the library. They're videos. Librarians read them. Older children read them to younger children. Grandma may not know what she's doing. She buys a bunch of books, send them to the house, and these books are read over and over again to children. This is a book called Woke Baby, and it's for babies age 3, babies to age 3. It talks about revolution. All right, then you can read all of this. There's an example of the kind of people that are training these people that write these books. This gentleman's name is Amin Hussan, and he's teaching a class for teachers to learn, or people who would develop these books, librarians and others. This is an interdisciplinary class that we will invite you to explore activism and decolonization. What does it look like after Occupy Wall Street, etc. So this gentleman is a Palestinian American activist. All right, so you get the point. This is a great article. It goes into very, very, very specific things about books. It starts with the climate change area, but a couple of quick things to show you. So Deborah's talking about the Sunrise Movement. We just learned about that. She's talking about an organization called 0 Hour, which does the same kind of training of young people. And this is an interesting one. The U.S. Youth Climate Strike. Again, they talk about climate, but look at, they move into, we are an anti-capitalist, okay, climate, now we're anti-capitalist, working class, multifunction coalition of young people who are organizing for radical climate action and the concern about big business. Now, the person who was the co-founder of this organization, her name is Ursa Hersey. Here's a quiz. Does that sound like a familiar name? Well, Isra Hersey founded this organization. She is the daughter of U.S. Representative from Minnesota, Ilhan Omar. So we're tying a lot of things together now. This is a family, the Omar family, that clearly understands everything Sharia, clearly understands jihad. Oh, by the way, they're leftists. Isn't that interesting how that all gets put together? Just a couple of titles, just to give you a feeling. Here is No, my first book of protest for babies to 3-year-olds. Here's another one. My first book of feminism for boys, for babies to age 3. Anti-racist baby board book written for children 2 to 3. You get the point. Feminist baby finds her voice, age 2. The little book of little activists, all right, 5 to 9-year-olds. You get the point. These are hardcover picture books. They look like they're innocent, but they're not. And again, this is a great website. I would highly recommend it. Again, it's called What's Inside Children's Books, and the author is Deborah DeGroff. So we just wanted to cover that for you. Another resource.
Yep, the website is what'sinsidechildrensbooks.com.
Very good. Thank you.
People are going to ask about that. So.
Okay, and we will be posting these references for you, but we wanted to show them to you. So, all right, Mary, what do we got? We have time for questions.
We do. Let's see if we can get through most of them. I think are commentary more than questions, but let me see. Where are the feds making domestic terror arrests? That's a very good question. We really need to wake up. Where's the law enforcement? Both of those questions are really good questions. I couldn't tell you, except that so many times we've seen with the Black Lives Matter and what they've done, especially in Seattle, the law enforcement has been told to stand down. They're not allowed. The mayors are stopping them from going out and doing what they need to do.
Right, so we're in a world of lawlessness. The message that we started the evening with Leo Holman is that lawlessness could affect you on a night out with your family.
That video of those folks just sitting out one night. I mean, you're right. I kept thinking the whole time when I was watching it, where's the law enforcement? Where's somebody sitting there going, 911? Where are they? You would have thought they'd been somewhere in the mix of all of that by the time the end of the video came about, but you're right, I didn't see it. We've got another one that says the corporations are donating to Black Lives Matter because they are told if they do not donate, their funders will boycott and destroy their business. Wow. Yep. I think you're right there too. But somebody's got to stand up. Somebody's got to say no. Somebody's got to say it's time to stop this madness, identify the enemy, and say, I'm not going to support it.
I think when you see the level of indoctrination over a period of decades, and we've got multiple generations now thoroughly toxically polluted in their minds, you can see how deep this is and how it is going to continue. We will be in a civil war through the election into next year. We're going to talk about at the end what are you doing to prepare. This is just more and more evidence of the prevalence of this. The virus we're talking about here is propaganda and indoctrination, even though we're focused on another virus.
Yep, and somebody says this is how jihadists do their thing to prepare for violent jihad. Well, indoctrination is a key part of it, and obey or else. And the documentary from the Clarion group is a fine example of what the jihadis are doing. And you've noticed that they have been very silent through Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter is leading the way right now, so they don't need to do a thing. They can come in and do their cleanup at the end. So yeah, they're working together. We've said it many times. The Red-Green Alliance is out there.
Mary, there's a question here about where can I get copies of these broadcasts. That's the whole question, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate, by the way, great attendance tonight, great people staying with us all the time. You need to spread the word, and the best way to go is to go to Sharia Crime Stoppers YouTube channel. So YouTube, Sharia Crime Stoppers, you'll find all of these webinars all the way back over a couple-year period. The most recent ones are easily found. You can find them. We do send out a email blast with the links and so on. That'll come out tomorrow, the next day. But please take that notion that it's your job. In the weeks we have, even before the election, to get these webinars out. This one in particular, I think, again, is it the last straw? Is this the last straw that will finally wake people up? Certainly to register and vote, but even to prepare for the rest of the story. It's a great thing to do, register and vote, but there's so much more we need to do, and maybe this issue will grab some people.
We've got a comment that says Black Lives Matter is a spiritual movement. It's a Marxist movement. it's a spiritual battle. I'm not sure that I would qualify them as a spiritual movement, though. George Soros is buying the election.
Mary, spiritual can mean good spirits and bad spirits. Maybe the person is saying it's a satanic notion, and certainly, certainly the people from the Sharia side that are involved in Black Lives Matter certainly have another vision of God. They follow a God who is totally different from the Judeo-Christian perspective, where God is love, God is goodness. That's not the case for the Sharia people. It's just the way it is. It's difficult to say sometimes, but we're really talking about evil. I think these videos are showing you evil.
Yep.
These videos are showing you evil, and people are dying, and we're using children. That's the overwhelming point. We're using children. We're building children to be murderers and arsonists and to feel good about it. That's the sick part. The sick part is what's in the minds of these children that will never get fixed.
Yeah. We've got one comment or a question that's asking, what parent would let their children go away with these people for weeks to train? What are the parents doing? Well, I think the comment to that is I would go back to Alex Neumann actually saying that they qualify, the Sunrise movement actually qualifies groups of children. Can you be arrested? We'll put you in this group. I think he actually had them in red and green. If you can be arrested, you're in this group. If you can't be arrested, maybe they've got a little more stronger parenting at that point, then they go over in this group. So, and they literally had the guy telling the officer, these folks want to be arrested. So a lot of it are children that are already abandoned, foster children, some children that just don't have the parental strength that they need to qualify.
Well, yeah, I think, Mary, that's a great point. I guess the only thing I would say is think about when I was a kid, if a teacher told me something, I mean, I thought my teachers, I was particularly impacted by a really attractive teacher. I'll say that, even as a 7-year-old. But we thought, and I'm sure girls are attracted to teachers and coaches, we think these teachers are another parent. We think these teachers could never lead us down the straight. So I don't want to lose the Glenn Beck message, Mary, what you brought to me, and I appreciate it. We have a culpability on the part of teachers. They're preparing these people to go out and do the extra sunrise things. These sunrise people are not necessarily, they may be going to a camp, but they're meeting throughout the school year. And it's almost, instead of going to the Boy Scouts, they're going to a sunrise meeting. This is in their neighborhoods. These are extensions of the public school. This is the hardcore end of it, but this is coming right through the indoctrination, the 6 and 8-year-olds in the public school. America is evil, and then they could go for an afternoon or two to a local sunrise meeting. It's not like they're so there is a level of selection, but an awful lot of this is a lot of kids that are candidates for this. How sad is that?
Yeah. I think we're going to end it with that. There's just a lot of commentary, more so than questions tonight, Dick. So I think we'll close with that. You want to pull up what's coming next?
Yeah, let me do that. I just want to remind everybody how grateful we are that you're with us tonight. It's a holiday evening. You're here. You cared enough. There was a great turnout. You're still with us. So we want to remind you that coming up, again, our A-list really has been gathering a great audience for us. So next week, Claire Lopez will be with us, that Leo Holman. Leo has already told us that on the 21st he will have, he's invited Sharam Hadian back, and then Christine Douglas Williams will be with us on the 28th. They are committed right up to the election. I can't think of a better group of people to react to the absolutely crazy things that are happening day to day and will continue to happen. So thank you for being with us. Mary, thank you for putting the program together tonight. We hope people enjoyed it. Any final comment, Mary?
Yeah, just let everybody know that I'll put as many links into the YouTube as I can, and it always comes onto the United West Sharia Crime Stoppers page as well. Probably late in the day tomorrow before I'll actually get it edited and all ready for everybody with all of the links. But again, happy Labor Day. It is a holiday. We so appreciate you coming and joining us tonight, and I hope your day has been fantastic, because I was at a Back the Blue event this morning, and it was fantastic. It was just wonderful to greet law enforcement and thank them for their service to the community. They were just so appreciative of what we did for them today. And God bless all of you, and thanks for joining us tonight.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Good night.